Good afternoon. This is Michael Harding.
And this is Christina Harding.
And we're here with On the Arts, that
Woo!
show that is dedicated to blowing the lid off of all of these wonderful little artistic secrets that we have here in Southern Utah. And we've had a lot of really, really fun guests on this show. We've had painters. We've had a curator. Last show, we had Kathy Cecilewitz, curator of the Sears Art Gallery. Let's see, we've had the head of the Statera organization, Melinda Vaughn.
Yes.
That was back in season 2. We had our
And
Lisa
Michael
Volpe.
Barr.
We had Michael Barr. We've had all sorts of artists on this show, and it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know not only those that are working around the country, such as Melinda and Michael Barr up at the Shakespeare Festival, but also having a lot of our local artist friends around here. And a lot of times when the guests come on the show, they ask, so what are we going to talk about? We've even had a guest or two ask for a prearranged list of questions so that they could prepare. And whenever they ask us that, we both just kind of look blankly at them and say, we're just going to ask you questions. We're just going to talk.
Because artists like to talk.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is a great opportunity for not only us to get to know some people in town and around here in Southern Utah, but also to let our listeners, who I know we are in the double digits now of
How do you
people
know
who
this?
are I can just
Have
feel
you been
it.
asking around?
I haven't. We actually had a lot of likes and views on our Facebook page. Just so everybody knows, we are broadcasting live video as well. You can go to Facebook, Radio St. George. That's Radio space ST space George. And you'll be able to find all of our shows archived as well as watch this one live. And this will be archived as well. And also, you can check us out on YouTube. Every one of our shows is broadcast video on YouTube. And I was actually curious. I did a search for Christina and Michael Harding on the arts. And all sorts of them came up. I was really excited. I'm ashamed to admit I'd forgotten about half the interviews.
You kept looking at yourself and went, this is amazing.
Well, absolutely. I took screenshots.
You
actually.
did.
It was, I have to have something on my phone to inspire me.
So if you have nothing else to look at during the day, you can pull up our videos and watch us.
Nothing else to look at. I've got several pictures of myself, so it's
true.
all good.
It's true.
Now, let's see. We do have a few artistic events that are happening this week that we want to make sure that you know about. What do we have going on?
Well, tonight, I understand there is auditions for Brigham's Playhouse, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And that starts at 5 o'clock, I believe, to 7:30 tonight. So if you think you're a dancer, singer, entertainer, want to go have some fun, get on over there and audition.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of wonderful, great roles in that show.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm sure
a lot of people think, it's just the leads that are so much fun. No, there are a lot of wonderful characters in that of all sizes.
And a great group of people to hang out with every night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where we've talked about the wonderful feeling that's created at Brigham's, the atmosphere. We had Jamie Young, the artistic director and executive director, here on the show a while ago. And it's not only a wonderful experience to go and be a part of the audience and experience these shows, but also I understand people who are in the casts, people who are in the productions in various functions, not only the actors, but also the stage management, which you're going to know extremely well.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to know? Oh, yeah, I'm stage managing, so it's going to be a party.
and also the choreographers and such, which we are going to talk about. So it seems like it's a wonderful experience just to work there. So we do encourage everybody, give it a shot, try it out.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely. And we also have this Friday, this is a recap of some information we had from Kathy Cecilewitz on our last show, the curator of the Sears Art Gallery. We have the opening of the Sears I can't speak English. I'm an actor and I can't.
It feels like a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. So.
The Sears Art Gallery, their special invitational, their yearly invitational will open this Friday. There will be a gala event, and the gallery will be open even beyond that with some wonderful, wonderful pieces.
Beautiful pieces.
I've had the pleasure of being able to walk by the gallery. My own office here at Dixie State is just down the way, and there are some pretty exciting pieces in there. I can't wait for the actual display to open. And we also have Thursday evening.
Yes.
If you're into some fun, fast-paced humor, we also have Rumors by Neil Simon, which is going to be opening here at Dixie State University.
And this will be from the students of Dixie. Yeah.
Absolutely. You're going to see the students who have been challenged by farce style. A lot of people think that comedy is simply just faster, louder, funnier. Not quite the case. Farce is a style. Absolutely.
And Michael Eaton's a wonderful teacher to be teaching teaching that to our students.
Absolutely. Michael Eaton, of course, who's been a teacher here in St. George for many, many years. Yeah. He has done work up at the Utah Shakespeare Festival with their education department, and he is now doing a lot of adjunct work and a lot of directing here at Dixie State. We encourage you to come check that out. Now, I do have to warn people. Uh-oh. It is a farce, it is a comedy, but there is language. Not a whole lot. But please know that probably any kids under the age of 12, you may want to either have a very clever censor button or just know that there will be some use of language in the show. That's something about Neil Simon. And, of course, we lost him last year, unfortunately. You know, God rest his soul. But with Neil Simon, his estate will make sure that the language is not changed by any means, and that includes the cursing. But I do want to let you know that he's a fantastic, fantastic playwright.
That's funny.
He's not a gratuitous. Very funny. And we also have...
Oh, do you want me to announce what else is going to happen Thursday?
Absolutely.
Chicago.
Not a trip to Chicago.
Not a trip to Chicago, no, but Chicago the musical.
Not Peter Cetera coming to sing some stuff. But.
Although that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, the stage door is doing Chicago, just right there at the Electric Theater.
Yeah, which should be a lot of fun. And actually on Thursday, we're going to have in the studio Carrie Kimball, and she's going to be talking about it. I guess she's the executive director of Stage Door.
She started the whole thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, she runs it all.
And we'll have a few of the actors, as well as James Royce Edwards will be here. He's directing a show called Altar Boys. Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, our two guests here in the studio are involved with a lot of that.
Yeah, here we go.
Now, this is my chance for my little monologue.
Here we go.
To segue into our guest.
It's going to be entertaining. Here we go.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about how small the world is, especially in the arts. Now, you hear that all the time, and you think it's just a cliche. Oh, the world is so small. But I'm here to tell you that as an actor, as someone who works in the regional theater, you run into people in the strangest of places, people who have been where you've been, people who share experiences that you have. Now, I'm going to share with you the strangest version of that I've ever seen. This happened to myself here at Dixie State University. We're in southern Utah. I don't know if you knew that or not, but we are in southern Utah.
Yep.
A little ways away from the East Coast where I grew up. I grew up in Virginia and a small town called Gainesville. A lot of the Civil War battlefields were around there. My brother and I used to play on the Civil War battlefield where Bull Run, the Battle of Bull Run happened, and we would find little Civil War bullets and such. It was it was full of history, and it was a lot of fun. But we went to a very small high school called Brentsville. And at Brentsville, this was really small. It was 6th grade through senior year, of course, and there were total about 500 students there. So it was pretty small. And please know, I grew up in a cow town. And I mean that very literally. Very much so, except we were allowed to dance as long as nobody saw us. And that was a good thing when nobody saw me dancing.
White men dance. Okay,
yes.
Continue.
But it really was a cow town. A lot of my friends, they got up at 4 in the morning and they milked the cows and such. That was our community. And what I'm doing is trying to show you the unartistic community that I came from. And we had a very small drama club. There were about 6 of us at our heyday. Now, I remember when I was a freshman, I was totally enthralled by how good these, the 2 upperclassmen were that were in the group.
They're going to Broadway, right?
Yes, absolutely. They were Broadway. And there was a particular actor named Michael Rahilly. And Michael Rahilly was a senior, and I will never forget, he taught me how to take time on stage, how to let the stage settle around. I'll never forget seeing him. And by the way, this is back in the 1980s where the style was parachute pants and rat tails and such. And Michael Rahilly, if you are listening out there, I do want to let people know, yes, you had a rat tail. You were wearing parachute pants. Well, we hope by this point. But anyways, I remember I was rushing as an actor. I was trying to get all of my lines out very, very quickly. And he stopped me and he stopped me and he just said, "Watch this." And so he said my first line, walked to a point, snapped his finger 3 times, and then went on to the next one. I'll never forget that lesson. And even now, whenever I'm on stage, I hear this phantom snapping whenever I feel like I'm rushing.
The Sharks and what is it, West Side Story?
Boy, crazy boy. And this is where it gets really weird. Now, here we are 20-some years later. And I've escaped this small town of no arts and what have you. Not escaped. It was a nice place to grow up, but I've had a lot of artistic adventures since then. And I've ended up here for a while, here in St. George, not only being an actor up at the Shakespeare Festival, but also teaching at this small college turned university called Dixie State University. Now, the strangest thing, we had an advisor hired at this school named Hannah Rahilly. And I thought, oh, I know that name. You know, this is another Rahilly. And it turns out she had married Mike Rahilly. And what was so incredibly odd was that we saw each other on campus before we knew that we had both ended up here. And I said, oh, my gosh. And, I heard the snapping in my head.
Yeah, you're like the snapper's back.
Exactly. And that just, it reminded me of how small this world really is. You're going to run into people from all walks of life, people with all sorts of experiences that you share. Now, I promise you this segue is coming to a close.
Is it going to be brilliant? Because I've been waiting.
Those of you who are still listening, thank you for staying on the air.
I'm on the edge of my seat here, Michael. Come on, let's go.
I hope that's not because you're getting ready to leap up and leave.
No, I'm...
But now, I spent a long time in Seattle. Had a grand old time up there. And it was actually Seattle. If you do check us out on Facebook and also YouTube, you'll see, and this is something I constantly wear, I'm going to lean towards the camera.
I'm so glad. There he is.
Just so people can see my Seattle, I have the Seattle hat on today, right?
Yeah,
okay, good. And I became a baseball fan in Seattle with the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, I see where we're going.
Yes.
Okay.
And while I was there, the Mariners were in a particularly exciting time. They were kind of bleeding players to the New York Yankees, but they were in an exciting time with players like Ichiro and Buhner. And they also had a wonderful player named Edgar Martinez. And I was new to the sport. And I'm not even an expert today, but I do enjoy it quite a bit.
Yep.
And Edgar Martinez, I admired him. And I thought, well, okay, that's cool. He's a baseball player, and I admire him, so that's great. Well, I come here to Dixie State, and one of my students, as a matter of fact, a student named Josh France. And that is how the segue starts coming to a close.
I see.
That's brilliant.
We're talking, and Josh is a great student. He's actually my assistant director for a project we're working on right now, The Wake of Jamie Foster. And we just got chatting, and I find out, oh, you're from the Pacific Northwest. Oh, that's great. Spent a lot of time up there. And this kid knows Edgar Martinez, okay? And I hope you don't mind the diminutive, this kid. But I'm still a little irritated that you know Edgar Martinez.
That's good.
But anyways, I'd like to welcome to the studio our two guests. We have Josh France, who I've sort of introduced here, and also his mother, Christine France.
Yay! Woo! Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we've done a lot of talking with our guests about the importance of growing up and growing up is good, but cultivating your love of the arts. A lot of people have talked about how they share their love of the arts with their children or nieces and nephews, or we've had a lot of teachers on who talk about it's important to share that love of the arts with their students and such. I think this is a wonderful thing. We've got a mother and son here, both involved in the arts. And of course, Christine, you're a dancer and also teach dance. And involved, this is the completion of the segue,
That's
with
beautiful.
Chicago, that is opening at the Stage Door Theater on Thursday. Welcome to the studio to you as well.
Welcome. Yes, we're glad to have you. And that's one reason I wanted them on the show. I thought it was so exciting when I found out that Josh's mother was involved in Chicago. I knew that she taught at Tuacahn High School also. And I thought, what a great thing to have on our show that the family's so involved in the arts in our community right now. So.
We talk a lot about the opportunities for families to audition for a lot of the community theater around. So I have to ask here, first of all, you're from the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
And you came down here. I understand that your father, Josh, is an FBI agent?
Yes, he is indeed.
Now, I have to tell you, I'm really envious of all the cool things that are your life. Edgar Martinez and a father who's an FBI.
Yeah, just a little bit exciting.
Right. And I please know, as dignified as I like to think of myself as being, I'm a geek when it comes to, people who have exciting stories in their life.
Yeah.
But what brought you here to St. George specifically?
I'm going to let you take that one.
Well, my husband was transferred with the FBI to the office here. It's a small FBI three-man RA.
Is he the F, the B, or the I?
He'd like to think he's all of them.
All of them at the same time, I bet.
And the others are punctuation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you came here, did you know that there were artistic opportunities for you, or were you coming here blind?
Not completely blind. My husband's family, most of them live down here in St. George, and one of them knew about Tuacahn. So that was our first introduction to that part of the arts, where Joshua was a junior at Tuacahn and got in with his sister Emily, and she was a freshman. And that kind of continued his artistic. You should tell them about your first artistic experience.
Oh, boy. Okay. So.
And who you have to thank for it.
Oh, right. The person next to me. Right. So.
I love it.
Oh, I was a sophomore, and all my life I loved to sing.
And
I
sing
did
very well.
a lot of singing. And my family had noticed that I also seemed to have a knack for performing. So they were like, you should be in a musical. And my high school was doing Shrek the Musical. And so I did not want to, because let's just say I was socially awkward and did not want to deal with any people. And then
always
my family,
a good trait for an actor.
Yeah, we're all awkward.
And then my family, mainly my mother, made me do it.
She made you do it.
You are going to audition or there will be consequences. So I was like, fine. And I auditioned and I got in as Humpty Dumpty.
Perfect.
And it was actually a surprise. It was a really, really good show, actually. There's great theater stuff that goes on up there.
But what did you say when you came home after the first rehearsal?
What did I say? I don't remember.
You said, I found my people.
Yes, I did. I said I found my people.
I like that.
In the most pompous way you could. I have found my people.
Yes.
They are who I will lead to the land of the arts.
He said I told a Harry Potter joke and they all laughed.
Right.
They got your joke. Yep.
But so it was just, had a lot of fun, and I thought, hey, I'll do this some more. And then my parents announced, hey, we're moving. I just got friends.
I bet that was dramatic.
It was fine. But are you playing the saddest little fiddle?
No, that was a little dramatic.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, the little dramatic.
But I do want to say, if you want to see some of this drama, check us out on our video broadcast. We just saw some of the performing on the face of our friend Josh Franz.
Fantastic.
But yeah, and I found love for it, and then came to Tuacahn, and Kyle Lewis, who is an amazing director and teacher over there. He gave me my love for theater. And senior year, I did nothing but acting. I was in almost all of his theater classes, and it was just so much fun to start doing that. And now I'm having fun at DSU with Michael Harding.
A great teacher as well.
Oh,
right.
Okay, wow.
Adding great teacher.
And it was one of the nice things about Tuacahn is they do get a wonderful, wonderful foundation in the arts. You mentioned Kyle Lewis, who is a tremendous theater teacher. He brings a lot of experience, and he's inspired a lot of students to continue on in various forms of training and such. And, you know, they in the dance department, they have a wonderful foundation that they get there, the art department. Tuacahn is a great asset to us here in Southern Utah for the young folks who want to explore the arts or even dedicate themselves in a greater fashion to it. Now, you said you played Humpty Dumpty in Shrek the Musical. Now, there are a lot of actors out there that I know make a career of playing the same role in different plays. We have actors who have played Falstaff in many of the different Shakespeare shows. I want to say you might be the very first actor I have met who has made a career or a part of your career playing Humpty Dumpty in various shows. Most recently, you played it in what?
I was Humpty Dumpty in DSU's Alice in Wonderland.
Gotcha. And I think we have to look at what opportunities you're going to have to play Humpty Dumpty beyond this.
No.
He says never again.
Never again. I refuse to be.
Even if there's a huge contract that pays very well, would you consider?
No.
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 We did build a wall around his chair.
Oh, that's
right.
fantastic.
Shrek
Yeah.
the Musical, we built a wall around my chair.
That's
Perfect.
Cool deal. Well, and I'll tell you, be careful what you swear as far as what you will never do.
Yeah, you never know, right?
I'm going to be real honest with you. I will be okay as an actor if I never go anywhere near the play A Midsummer Night's Dream
and
again.
play bottom.
Oh
Yes,
my
you
gosh.
hate bottom, and
You're-
yet I bet he'll do it again.
That's one of the more common ones out there to do. And just be careful what you swear for there. One of the stories I'm quite fond of is up in Seattle. They have, it's a company, I don't know if I can say it on the air, so I'll be very careful
Just
here.
say beep. No,
Yeah, it's a lending company that's up there. And one of their not mascots, but their spokes creatures is this worm that lives in the tree. And it's living in a money tree, if you get the pun there.
We got it.
And holy cow, when I first saw this commercial, I turned to my wife and I just said, if I ever have to do that, please shoot me. And I thought that would be terrible. And I just thought, what a tremendous indignity as an actor.
Play worm?
Yeah, to dress up in this worm suit.
Do what
And
you got to do.
It was this really, comical voice of, come to our store and we'll
Pay
take care
those
of
bills,
you. Well, I always poo-pooed it, if you will, or looked down my nose at it until my agent called. And my agent said, well, the guy who's doing it is retiring, and they need someone who fits the suit and can do the voice. Now, I've always been very proud of my voice work and such, and I guess I had mocked this commercial so much that I was really good at the voice. And my agent knew this. And my first thought was, no, please, no, anything but that. And then she quoted the price or quoted what the paycheck would be. And let's just say it was nice.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I walked into the rehearsal for that, having sworn for a year and a half I never would.
Josh is shaking his head right now going, no.
I will not play Humpty Dumpty again.
Never again.
Now,
all the king's horses and all the king's men cannot make me play it ever again.
Never again.
Now, your mom, Christine, you work at Tuacahn as the ballroom director, correct? And how long have you been at Tuacahn now?
We've lived here 5.5 years. This is beginning my 5th year.
5th year,
in the program.
Wonderful. And you just were telling us that you're taking them to competition?
Yes. Last year was the first year that we went to the National Dance Sport Championships up in Provo.
Wow.
Utah. And they did really well. They took second place Division II, and so we're taking 2 medleys up again. And
good luck. That's fantastic.
But so we talk about high school students who are anxious to develop their arts and to devote themselves to it. I don't think anybody denies that becoming really good at your art takes time. What kind of time do these students put into preparing for this?
These students come to rehearsal at 7 a.m. It's the 0 hour before school begins, and they come on time, most of them. And then we also meet Saturday mornings from 8 to, now it's 7 to noon.
7 to noon. Oh.
So
and are there evenings involved with this as well?
No. Most of them are involved in the musical at the high school, which is working. And
when does that open?
Last weekend in March.
Okay.
And that's where it's a wonderful piece to see for those of you who don't know. Working is basically a conglomerate of pieces. They had some of the best composers and lyricists and librettists of musical theater. I think Stephen Schwartz actually was one of them, who, of course, we know recently from Tuacahn for Moses, Prince of Egypt. He worked on that piece, and also Wicked and Godspell. Some names you probably would know, Pocahontas, the Disney film. But it was written by a whole mess of these folks. Each individual number was written. So you have a wonderful variation of styles through this. It's wonderful for students because they get to experience different styles and such. And it's also rather poignant. It gets into something we can all relate to, the working man, the working class, if you will, all of these different styles of jobs.
Yeah, and Joshua's sister, my daughter, is the choreographer on that.
Fantastic. I didn't know that. Well, that's great. So you've watched your mom, I'm sure, from a small age, watching her dance. And is that now, Christine? Did you own a studio from where you used to live, or
no? I was part of a studio called Pacific Ballroom Dance Company.
Oh,
and it was all ballroom formation dancing, and that was the world we came from moving down here.
Wow. Yeah, and now you're choreographing the musicals around here.
I'm starting to. I've got altar boys that I'm doing. That will begin the week after spring break. What's the date? Oh, the date of that. And then I'm also going to be the choreographer for How to Succeed.
How to Succeed at Brigham's Playhouse. Oh, fun. So when do you breathe? This does not happen, Josh?
She doesn't breathe. It goes from one busy thing to the next. And every time she says, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it again.
She does it again.
And then she goes back in.
And that's where you got your spunk too, right?
Actually, I have the same problem. I become very busy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break. And then I'm busy.
And you can't because you love what you do. Uh-huh. Fantastic. Now, Chicago opens this Thursday, and you're involved in that. Now, who are you playing in Chicago?
I play the role of Liz. She's one of the Mary murderesses in Cook County Jail.
Yeah.
So I may or may not have killed my husband.
May or may not, yeah.
May or may not.
Alleged.
When you pop your gum one too many times.
Oh, fantastic.
2 warning shots.
Mm-hmm.
I warned him.
Right into his.
And your husband, as an FBI agent, is listening, saying, "Okay, this could be useful."
Yeah, how does he feel about this?
Oh, when we leave for rehearsal, he says, "Okay, have fun killing people."
Oh dear, yeah.
Thanks, babe.
So now, are all your children involved in the arts then?
Yes. My oldest daughter, she's a visual artist, so she's the painter, the sculptor, all of those, and then Joshua, actor.
Yes.
Emily.
Again, check out that live feed.
Singer, yes.
Don't forget.
Emily, dancer, actor. She's heavily involved in dance, wants to be a dancer. And then Samuel, our youngest, is in high school still. He's actor, singer.
Actor, singer, too.
Kind of jack of all trades. He kind of likes to do everything from music to acting, and then he loves to do just like stuff with technology. So he has fun with like everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you're delving into, Josh. You started as an actor, singer, and you made that very clear as your mom was listing all of the talents of all of your siblings and you. You've gotten into directing. Let me ask you, what is appealing about directing to you?
One, I have all the power. I'm kidding.
No, that's all right.
He's a true director.
The stage manager will challenge you on that.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, Jasmine, if you're listening. I apologize. You're in charge.
Good call.
What I just love about directing is I want to create things. I love performing in something. And even in acting, I can create things. But with directing, I get to see an overall, like a play or an overall project, and I get to have fun with it. I get to play with all the different aspects that are found within said play or project. And I just get to create something that I want to watch.
I'm going to tell you, it's interesting having Josh in rehearsal. I did mention he's my assistant director. There are 3 facial expressions I look for on Josh's face. One of them is actual, inspiration and delight, and I know things are going well at that point. I'll look over and Josh will have this smile on his face. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's really good."
More of a maniacal grin.
That's the next look. When I look for that maniacal grin, what I'm seeing is he's saying, "Okay, that works, but I could do better." And usually he's got a pretty good idea that does work a little better. And then there's also the bored look. That's the one I look for more than anything. If I'm up there directing what I think is going to be a brilliant scene and brilliant pictures, I look over and, Josh, you have an amazingly expressive on your face, and I know I really need to fix that.
Well, I have to ask, how did you get to be an assistant director of a play at Dixie State University? How did this happen?
Because I'm stubborn. And I always nag all of the professors.
You do
because
not.
Throughout the time here, I've always been like, "Hey, I want to direct something. Hey, I want to direct something." And then I was thinking of like, "Hey, I'd love to assistant direct a play this semester." And so I talked to Michael because I was like, I want to work with him. And so I approached him and I was like, "How do you feel about assistant director?" And that wasn't like a position that you could just sign up for. In a lot of looking for positions, when you're signing up, the highest they had was stage manager. And so I just went up to Michael and I said, "I want to assistant direct your show." And he's like, "Cool."
That was it?
That was arduous.
And then we just discussed different things to see how our thoughts matched. And then He encouraged me to audition for the shows still. So then he gave me the choice. Choice.
No.
Do you want to act or do you want to direct? And I love directing things. I love creating stuff. So I was like, okay, you have me for your assistant director. And that was history.
Well, I'm seeing too that this is not an easy job. I mean, I would think some students are thinking, "Oh, I can go in there and just stand by my professor," but you've been really put to work.
Yes, I have. He's basically been putting me to work of like a third of the stuff in the show. A lot of times during the play, certain scenes are occurring in certain parts of the house that the play is set in, but in other parts of the house are moments where characters are doing stuff. Sometimes mundane things, or they're doing really interesting artistic things. And so he put me in charge of all of those, and they're throughout the play. So he has, and I'm glad to say, I'm glad he has put me to work. I've learned actually a lot from my experience with him forcing me to do things.
I'm going to say this is an irritation of mine, and the safety of venting this irritation on the air is you can't do anything to me without it being recorded. I will say I was very irritated one time when Josh was directing what we've been calling B-roll when it comes down to it, the stuff that's happening that's not the focus. And I was trying to watch something that I had staged, and we decided to put them together, and I was so irritated because what he had staged was a little more interesting, and that's a problem when it comes down to it. Well, that's right. Let's ask, you're a choreographer,
Yes.
Christine, and such. Do you have a preference? Do you like performing versus choreographing, or are they just two totally different animals?
I'll be honest with you. I really enjoy choreographing. My forte is choreography, where I get to, like Josh says, get to do something that I like to watch. Create something that I enjoy watching. But so and it actually is due to my kids and their experience at TUACON and what they've learned, that I thought, well, I'm going to try my hand at acting. And
Oh, wonderful.
so I've just recently jumped into that. I did Evita last year, and then so this is only my second show since high school.
Oh, wow. So your children have inspired you to get back on stage, and that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. You mentioned that up in the Pacific Northwest. I keep saying that with a smile. You did Humpty Dumpty and such. Was your family involved in the art scene up there beyond high school? Besides going and hanging out with Edgar Martinez.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. It was mainly my mom doing ballroom, and then my older sister started doing it, and then Emily, my younger sister, she started doing ballet when she was very little, and then just went right into the ballroom studio that my mother worked at, and so that was kind of a majority of the arts that we did up there, and I just kind of sang every now and then for like things.
Well, I have to say, I know in my own family, and I've mentioned this quite a few times, my father's a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and my mother wanted to be a concert pianist. My brother is a concert pianist. My grandfather wanted to be a concert pianist. I was the black sheep. I went into theater.
You wanted to be an actor.
Exactly. We had all of these artists, and I have to say, sometimes my father would come home and say, how did this happen? Where did these people come from? Is the FBI agent, is he involved in the arts at all, or?
He is the backbone of what we do. It's
Well, when he was it in college, he did draw. He's
a visual artist.
Yeah, he
as well.
made a lot of really, really cool drawings that we actually have a lot of them framed, and it's really cool to look at that. But other than that, no, that's kind of my father's artistic add-on, and then being an FBI agent.
Just that.
It wasn't always an FBI.
Wasn't always FBI. He used to be an accountant.
Really?
He got his master's.
I married an accountant.
Yeah, got his master's in accounting.
8 years later.
8 years later, this was around 9/11, and he had started becoming bored with his job and was thinking of joining the FBI because he had kind of wanted to for a while. Then 9/11 happened, and he was like, he just turned to my mom and was like, okay, I'm going to join the FBI. And she's like, okay, honey, do the fun things you want to do.
Bye.
She thought he was going to go behind the desk. Nope. What
he's on
was
the
his
field.
Accountants
first?
normally do.
Yeah, accountants normally do. And what was his first assignment?
Squad 5, gangs, drugs, and violent crime.
Oh,
St.
no.
Louis, St.
In
Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri.
No.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Luckily, the airwaves don't reach that far of this show, so I can say that's scary.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wow.
But I do have to say publicly that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And
Well, yeah,
what
the
we do as a
support, you'd
family.
have to have a support. You seem like you're very a tight family with this, which you have to be. That's wonderful. Yeah.
I thought even at a rehearsal the other night, I thought this was really cool.
Yeah.
I got a text from someone I didn't know who the number was when it came up on my phone, and it was actually Christine texting me saying, "Hey, there's a birthday of someone who you're close to, coming up, and she said I'd like to bring in some stuff to your rehearsal." And I think you did mention that it was Josh, but my first thought was like, who is this? I have no clue who this is. And it was really fun to see you, and you brought Emily, I believe, with you, and to have basically a little family celebration there for a while. That was a lot of fun.
Well, I think it's great to know, too, that, so many families think that they cannot do anything in the arts. They think they're just too busy and it's not going to work. But this is an example of the family supporting each other and the mom getting back into acting again and the family's all back behind her supporting her. And I think that's important to show your children that you can get back into following your dream or whatever your passion is,
even if you're broke.
Even if you're broke.
And if going into the arts, there's a
You're
good
gonna be
chance.
broke. Yeah.
Tuesday.
Boy, isn't that the truth. But
Or you marry an accountant and then go off and you're
but
good.
I have to say, as we always mention, as we're in the studio with our guests, you can see it in the eyes. We can see it in our guests that they love what they do, and their smiles when they talk about their passion and their art. That just I wish people could just see it. They can see it. Can't really tell in the video, but that is so important in a family.
Absolutely. And we've heard that from several of our guests. We've had Rachel Cox on.
Yes.
Actually, who does a lot of vocal work, and she
Beautiful
talks
opera
a lot
singer.
about that.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful guests. We've had Michaeline Ibsen on, and she talked about family and how they can support.
She talked about getting back into it with her family, too, and that she had to follow her dreams. She had a passion, and she just went for it, and how her family supported her in that. So, yeah.
And I have to ask both of you, because, of course, you, Christine, you've said you've just gotten back into performing, even though you've been teaching and choreographing. And, Josh, you're at an age where, you got to start thinking of this question, what's next for the two of you? What are your dreams? What do you want to do with this? I just want to make it through rehearsal tonight.
I just want to make sure my wig stays on.
Well, with this, I do plan on, I want to do grad school. I want to make stuff. I just want to do as much as I can with theater. I want to perform. I want to direct things. Maybe, who knows, further down the line, maybe teach, or possibly maybe start my own company. Somewhere around there. Yeah, like my own kind of theater company. And I don't know, that's kind of like way shooting for the stars, but I don't know. This is something that I love, and I want to keep doing it until I cannot any longer.
But when you say starting a theater company, is there a particular type of theater that are you going to do, like an homage to Humpty Dumpty, or?
Oh, stop that!
No.
Now you're in for it, Josh.
I'm really into dramatic contemporary. I'm really into that, and I love doing some classical stuff. I love doing Shakespeare, but I think I would want to do the contemporary, just because a lot of my influence of doing theater and a lot of how I artistically make things, it's very contemporary, and I love doing that.
Gotcha. What about for you, Christine?
Yeah, Mom.
For me, oh gosh, I don't know. There's lots of shows that I see coming up that I think would be really fun to audition for and
good
and
for
try
you.
and do. And so, we'll just see what's next.
Well, this is such a common question to ask actors or dancers. And by the way, this is something that has been new to me, the whole world of dance, when it comes down to it. I've always enjoyed watching dance, but I didn't know a lot of the intricacy that goes into it. I mean, of course, the moves and what have you, but when I would think of acting, I would think, oh, there are certain roles I really want to play or roles that I really want to explore. And it's been only recently, and I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, that I realized there are roles for dancers as well, that people want to dance this choreography, or they want to dance this piece or create this piece and such. Do you have a role like that in the world of dance that you'd like to take on?
As a dancer?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't know. For me, any opportunity I have to do anything is an awesome opportunity. I'm super, super excited about Chicago. And it's a great cast, great group. I get to dance. The ensemble, I think, is actually one of the more fun roles to have, just because that's where all the dancing and is done. And we do have great leads, though. I mean, they're phenomenal. And just the whole cast, it's been an awesome experience.
Although, be honest, if Mia Michaels called you up right now and was like, do you want to go on tour with me? You would be gone.
Yes.
You would fly.
Yes. Mia Michaels, yes, she choreographed Finding Neverland. She's an amazing choreographer, and one I aspired to be would be great.
Yeah.
Well, when people come to this production of Chicago, and we do hope you will, it's directed by Josh Scott, another former guest that we had, I believe, back in season 2. Who's also directing a version of The Odyssey at Dixie High School, which he's very, very excited
Which you
by.
wrote.
Okay, I wasn't actually going to say that.
Himself, but okay.
That is my adaptation of The Odyssey, which I'm very happy and proud of. But when they come to Chicago, I believe, was it Bob Fosse that did the original choreography?
Bob Fosse is the original choreographer. We have Shelley Thomas, who did the choreography, and we've kind of called it Shelley Fosse.
Shelley Fosse?
So
I
Fosse.
like
it
that.
was definitely Fosse-inspired choreography, and it's so much fun.
Oh,
So
wow.
much fun.
That's great.
I want to coin this term. I want to do more shows with chassis style.
Chassis.
Or Shab Shelley.
So this Thursday, what time is Chicago?
Starts at
opening?
7:30,
Okay.
and it's a Valentine's Day.
Oh, it's Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day,
Yes.
you know,
How
we can-
perfect.
Kind of a lot of irony in that. Valentine's Day, Chicago. Valentine's Day, Chicago.
Where it's a lot of women who allegedly.
Well,
Allegedly.
I would take my girlfriends to go see Chicago. That's the way I would do it.
It's a great show,
Yeah.
great set,
Yeah.
great choreography. Yeah.
I would take my
Lots of
girlfriend,
fun.
my Valentine, to Chicago. That would be my wife sitting on my lap.
That was what a sweetie. Yeah.
And I do have to say,
And like murder. Mhm.
I don't want you to be a character in Chicago. I will say that, I do owe a lot to Christina regarding the show. This was her idea when it came down to it. We talk about the arduous process. You talk about the arduous process of becoming the assistant director. And by the way, that wasn't an easy decision. I do want, not for me, but for Josh, when he says that I said, you get to choose between acting or directing, that's a hard decision that artists are going to face when they go into this profession.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, well, I'll direct or I'll act. It's I'll direct or I'll take the chance at acting. So it's not a bird in the hand kind of thing. Had Josh chosen to audition, and we made this agreement beforehand, he would have auditioned against everyone else. And that means possibly being cast, possibly not being cast. And one of the probably most educational moments I have as a teacher is when a student comes up to me with a dilemma like that. And sometimes it has to deal with shows outside of Dixie State when they say, well, I've got this one in the bag. They've already offered it to me, but there's this other show that if I wait, I could audition for that, but I might not get. And, I've got news for all those students. Welcome to the profession.
What contract? Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and actually, we are almost out of time. One of the things that we always tell our guests, we say it's going to fly, and it always kind of does with us. We've never had a guest who doesn't want to talk.
We hope we never do, too. That would be.
I'd love to ask both of you to weigh in on this. Christine, what would you recommend for a parent who has children who are interested in the arts, especially here in Southern Utah?
If they're interested, there's just lots of opportunities, or a lot of opportunities especially for kids, for youth to be involved in the arts. I am a big supporter of Tuacahn High School and of Vista School for the Performing Arts. I think that they both have really good jumpstart programs for acting, for singing, for dancing, that can catapult these kids to what they want to do next out of high school. So that's a great start. Great teachers. You have Jake Thomas at Vista, who's an excellent
fantastic teacher.
Yeah, great guy.
There, and Abe Nickel with music there.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just a lot of opportunity. And I know there's opportunity in the other high schools as well. I just believe Tuacahn just really has a good focus and a good springboard for that.
Gotcha. And I think it's really inspirational. Parents do need to know that they have opportunities not only in schools, but ways to get their kids involved. And as you said, Josh, earlier, your mom inspired you to become part of the arts by basically telling you you had to, which I think is a wonderful story. And I love watching the energy between you two. But Josh, I'm going to actually give you an opportunity that I do not in rehearsals quite often. You get the last word on this. You are an up-and-coming artist. What would you have to say to your fellow students who want to get into this?
I would just, well, I'm going to give the cliche answer of do what you love. But just look for, if you are interested in any form of performing arts, just try it. Go and do it. It's like, it never hurts to try it. And maybe you'll try it and you'll be like, that was fun, but I won't do it. Or you try it and you find out, this is really fun. And you have that moment of, what if I do this more? And so it's just try. And if you find the knack for it, go. Just have fun.
Well, we definitely want to thank both of you for being guests on the show today.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Just a reminder of some of the events that are happening on Thursday. Not only is Chicago, the musical opening at Stage Door, which is at the Electric Theater, I believe, and that's directed by Josh Scott. We also have on Thursday the opening of Rumors, a Farce by Neil Simon. That's directed by Michael Eaton, and it's populated with the students of Dixie State University learning to do farce. On Friday night, please know that Rumors will not be performing. There will be 2 performances on Saturday, however. But Friday night it will not be performing because that is the opening gala, an opening night of the Sears Art Gallery Invitational. So we got a couple of things happening, or a few things, I should say, happening this weekend. Please do make sure that you keep your ear to the ground. There are a lot of opportunities to not only observe art, to be in the audience, but also to participate. And until you hear from us again, we do hope that you will keep your focus on the arts.